I should just quickly say, actually, Benny, we've got the pitch behind us. We didn't play on that. The game wasn't played on the pitch. But the pitch is behind it. It's a massive pitch. You've played on this. You've scored on this ground. It's a really, I mean, from my perspective, I've never played on, the majority, I think 1 or 2 grounds I've been lucky enough to play on. But this looks like a really, really big playing area.
You know what, it is a big area, and I mean, it's an intimidating stadium, put it that way. I mean, I don't think I've ever played and it's been full, but whatever's been in here has been enough. And I remember playing here for Villa and scoring that end, which is like out to the right of the tunnel, and the fans over there, like the far side, threw a flare at the linesman, like hit him in his head. Lineman went down, game was delayed. I swear, as a football club, Villa, players on the pitch, everyone froze. End up getting beat 2-1. That big Danny Shooty playing for them as well at the time.
Yeah.
Him again.
It looks like a nice stadium, actually.
I mean, it's very old school with the 4 corners.
Yeah, very old school, yeah.
But yes, it's like an old traditional stadium.
Yeah. It looks like the noise stays in here rather than escapes.
It does, yeah. You know what? Their surface has always been nice.
Yeah, it looks great. But they're all great now, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean,
they're all like 80%
awful.
grass and 20% synthetic.
Yeah, really nice grass.
Before the break, I asked the question, the second of 3 no Googlings, which player this season has received the most yellow cards in the Premier League?
Palhinha.
It is Palhinha with 12. Now, in a moment, we'll look back at yesterday's wonderful chat. We're very lucky to have Gerard Pique with us in the studio. We'll play some of that. We'll have a chat about that. But before that, we're going to turn our attention to England. We can hear now from England's goalkeeper, Jordan Pickford. He's been speaking to talkSPORT's Faker Others about his desire to hold on to the number 1 shirt.
My dream is always to play for England. And, I just want to... I feel like I've been consistent over the last 6 years with the England shirt, and I keep looking forward and don't look back, and I just want to keep progressing and keep the shirt on my back, and whatever that number becomes. But it's great to be in that bracket of top legendary goalkeepers.
Darren Bent actually said on air the other day that you're his number 1 goalkeeper in his era. How does that make you feel to hear that?
No, it's a good compliment. But yeah, I strive for more, and I want to keep improving as a goalkeeper, and I know I'm 30 now, so, but yeah, I'm coming into my prime, I would say. So, no, I definitely want to keep improving and just keep picking up them caps and keep doing my best for England.
A reminder, of course, you can hear live commentary of England's international friendly with Brazil. That's tomorrow night, straight after us at 7 p.m. We had a little debate on our show who the greatest ever England goalkeeper was in our lifetime. I'm a little bit older than you. I went Ray Clements. But you've gone Jordan Pickford. What makes him, in your mind, the best England keeper?
Well, I just look at what he's done for England, his body of work since he's got that number 1 shirt. I mean, he's taken a penalty, he scored it. He's ever present for England as well. Very rarely does he make mistakes for England. You can always count on him. His distribution is as good as they get, that left foot. And I just think he's been the most consistent. I think Joe Hart was consistent, and he'd be in my top 3. But I almost feel like there was a period where there was a lot of interchange. I think like Paul Robinson was one for a bit. Scott Carson got an opportunity as well. David James was in there at the same time. There's a little bit of movement, goalkeepers depending on it, but for Jordan Pickford, I think he's been consistent.
He's head and shoulders, I think, above whoever's second to him. But I'm
for
always
England or club?
For England, but well, for club as well, but for England, I'm always led to believe that competition is good. Is it good or bad, the fact that Pickford basically knows, without any shadow of a doubt, he is first choice for the national side?
Do you know what, it is good, but then you look at the situation at Arsenal with the 2 goalkeepers. That conversation about who the number 1 is has made them both a bag of nerves. Well, certainly
You're right.
first.
That's a very good point.
Whereas David Raya, he knows he's the number 1. Even though Arteta's never come out physically and said David Raya's my number 1. He's the number 1. And only now he's starting to play calm. Because if you can remember, we've seen Ramsdale make a mistake, unfortunately, against Brentford. But if you can remember rightly with David Raya, he was a bit ropey in Europe a couple of times, getting beat from goals that he shouldn't have got beat from. So even he was a bit nervous. So I think that competition created that nervousness. But I think in any kind of position you play, certainly in that position, goalkeeper, you have to be clear about who's number 1, and that, unfortunately for the number 2, it's frustrating. You might have to be patient, but it will help you long term. When you get your opportunity, you're like, well, I've got to hold it, but I know ultimately he's the number 1.
That mistake you mentioned that he made, Ramsdale against Brentford, that was with his feet, right? Do you think as a goal, when I watched that, I automatically thought to myself, okay, it's bad, it's a mistake, but it's not with his hands. If he drops one and fumbles it and it goes in, that's worse. Do you think, I mean, you've obviously got to take positives from all mistakes, but do you think there's an element of, even in his own mindset, thinking, okay, it was with my feet, I got caught, but it wasn't to do with my goalkeeping duties?
No, because I think in that situation, he just tried to overthink it. He's probably thought to himself, because a lot of people have said David Raya has been brought in because of him coming for crosses and his distribution, he's probably thought to himself, I don't want to give the ball away, so I'm going to be a little bit extra cautious, a bit more precise, so I'll take a little bit longer. So it's come to him, and usually he'd go there and he'll just kick it. But he's taking it, he's taking a couple more steps than he needs to, and then he goes, right, I'm ready, but then it's too late. Usually, Ramsdale last season gets it and goes, boop, and it's gone.
Yeah. Reminder, you can, probably see Jordan Pickford in action tomorrow, England up against Brazil. It's live on talkSPORT build-up. That one begins when we come off air at 7 p.m. Now, former Spain, Man United and Barcelona legend Gerard Pique joined us in the studio yesterday on Drive. We were very lucky. One of the things he spoke about was the fact that he believes the best players from the 90s would struggle in the modern game.
I think that any centre-back in the 90s or any right-back or any left-back or any goalkeeper in the 90s could not play now football. In the way it's played right now, not because they didn't have the talent. Of course they had the talent and they were the best in that generation, but because the way of play is totally different. I mean, for a keeper of the 90s, that was just a matter of saving. Now they have to play with the feet, and at that time you weren't trained to do that. My opinion is that they really need to adapt his way of play to the one that we play right now. And to train this, you need years, because you have to do it when you are a child. So it's very difficult to really put your mind to really change the way that you understand football.
Listen, who are we to argue with the wonderful Gerard Pique? But I think it's something that he was speaking about yesterday, and we just heard that we all sort of knew the game, of course, evolves. Even, the game today compared to how it's going to be in 10 years' time will be totally different. How do you think you would have fared? Your actual game from back then, it wasn't that long ago, to now, has it changed much?
Was he not talking about goalkeepers when he said that?
I think, he was talking about one of the reason that conversation started was we were talking about Gary Neville.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that role has changed. Of course, the fullback role, even before Gary Neville, it was just up to the halfway line and hold. And now, of course, we see, Neville used to overlap Beckham. And then you look at Trent and just what he adds to that team. So it's always moving on.
It is. And when he talks about players from the 90s, I think the great players we saw from back then would be able to adapt because they're great players. That's why they're great. The likes of Zidane's, R9s, these guys would play in any era. But it's attention to detail. Goalkeepers, he's 100% spot on with goalkeeping because it was about keeping the ball out the net, making saves, coming for crosses. They were the fundamentals. We've said it on this show so many times. Now you've got to be able to play with your feet. You've got to be able to play out from the back. You've got to be able to start attacks. So I think, there's a level. I think, for myself personally, I think I could have played in this era because, listen, I made it in the era that I did, but that was the hunger, the drive, the dedication to make it. If you put me back into this era, that's not going to change.
But your game, you were predominantly a number 9 down the middle on your own.
Yeah, in behind.
Yeah, so it's not like maybe 5-10 years before you, it was always two centre forwards playing off each other. I wonder how they would have fared in today's game if you would have said to one of them, it's just you. Like, for argument's sake, Michael Owen, usually, certainly for England, he had the big man, right?
Yeah.
He had either Emil Heskey or Peter Crouch alongside him. I wonder how a quite small, slender, slim Michael Owen would have done just as on his own down the middle, or with the pace that he had, would you have played him out wide?
Nah, you know what? There's an argument he could have been played out wide, but I think the pace that he had down the middle, even if he was little, all you'd have to do is just maybe tinker the way you play. You obviously can't go too direct because he's not going to win any headers.
Yeah.
But you get into a certain areas and you know full well. Certainly with the way defenders are defending today, because every centre forward wants to come off the front and play with their feet, they've not really got to worry about running in behind. The moment you get someone like a Michael Owen, who's every single time someone gets the ball spinning behind, oh my goodness, if you put him up against today's centre-halves, he'd cause some serious problems, Michael Owen.
Do you think, I mean, it's a silly question because the answer is obviously yes, but I can't see where. Can you see a time where in 5 years' time we'll go, oh, there's a new role that no one's seen yet? For argument's sake, the John Stones role, right? It's like, the invention of the wheel again.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden you've got this centre-half that now moves into midfield when they're attacking and so on. Do you think there's still room for huge improvements in a starting 11 and a formation and the duties that players have? Or do you think literally we have...
No, do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me, and my mates, I've always said this, but he's a bit of a thinker, one of my mates, and he's always said to me that he thinks at some point we'll get to a point where you'll start putting goalkeepers in goal that are not goalkeepers. Just outfield players with a pair of gloves on, and they're pretty much going to play on the halfway line.
Yeah, but won't they just get chipped from the...
Well, if you keep possession of the ball, and then obviously he'll make his way back.
Do you know
what?
I'm looking at my producer Joe. Tomorrow's phone-in, right? Reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
What can be done in football that hasn't been done yet?
Honestly, my mate is convinced that will happen.
Of course that can't happen.
Why can't it?
Because it would just get...
No, but I'm not saying it would just stay on the halfway line.
Yeah.
He'll have to move with the play. But he's convinced that at one point they're going to go, do you know what? 11 outfield players, both comfortable with their feet, just a pair of gloves on.
But the breakaway. If you're like Spurs, you play with a high line. I mean, you're in a world of trouble.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to adapt. But he's convinced that will happen.
Okay. What's his name?
My mate?
Yeah.
Craig.
Okay, Craig, you've no idea what you're talking about. If you're Craig, you can phone up tomorrow, 3717223344. We'll have some fun with that.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.